Have you ever wondered why some language learners become fluent in just a few months, while others study for years but still struggle to hold a basic conversation? The answer isn't more grammar books, expensive courses, or memorizing thousands of vocabulary words. The secret is surprisingly simple, yet profoundly transformative: learning to think in English. Most English learners make the same critical mistake. They think in their native language, translate to English in their minds, and then speak. This mental translation process creates an invisible barrier between you and fluency. It makes you slow, unnatural, and constantly searching for words. But what if you could bypass this translation step entirely? What if you could think directly in English and speak as naturally as you do in your native language? This comprehensive guide will show you exactly how to develop this one crucial skill that will transform your English from hesitant and awkward to fluent and natural. Whether you're preparing for an exam, advancing your career, or simply wanting to communicate confidently with English speakers around the world, thinking in English is the only skill you truly need to master. Why thinking in English changes everything. The translation trap. When you translate from your native language to English, several problems occur simultaneously. First, you're essentially doing two mental tasks instead of one, which slows you down considerably. Second, direct translation often leads to unnatural phrases because languages don't map onto each other perfectly. What sounds perfect in your native language might sound strange or even incomprehensible in English. Third, and perhaps most importantly, the translation process keeps you mentally anchored in your native language. Your brain treats English as a foreign code that must be deciphered rather than as a natural form of expression. This fundamental mindset prevents you from ever truly becoming fluent because you're always operating through a filter. How native English speakers actually think. Native English speakers don't think about grammar rules or vocabulary lists when they speak. They don't construct sentences word by word or worry about whether they're using the present perfect or past simple. Instead, thoughts and words flow together seamlessly. An idea appears in their mind already clothed in English words. This isn't because native speakers are somehow special or because they learned English as children. It's because they think directly in English. Their thoughts are in English, so speaking English is simply the natural expression of those thoughts. When you develop this same ability, speaking becomes effortless because you're no longer translating, you're simply expressing what's already in your mind. The neuroscience behind language thinking. Research in neuroscience has revealed fascinating insights about bilingual brains. When proficient bilinguals switch between languages, different neural pathways activate. Those who translate between languages show activity in the brain's executive control regions, indicating extra mental effort. However, when bilinguals think directly in their second language, their brain activity patterns mirror those of native speakers. This means your brain is capable of creating separate neural networks for English. You don't need to route everything through your native language. Your brain can process, think, and produce English directly. The key is training your brain to build and strengthen these direct English pathways. Understanding the levels of language thinking. Level 1, the constant translator. At this beginning level, every thought requires translation. You want to say, I'm hungry, but first you think it in your native language, then translate each word, then speak. Even simple sentences require significant mental effort. Conversations feel exhausting because you're constantly working double time. At this level, your speaking is slow and unnatural. There are long pauses as you search for words or construct sentences. You often use simple vocabulary because complex words require too much mental energy to translate. Grammar mistakes are frequent because different languages structure sentences differently. Level 2, the mixed thinker. As you progress, you begin thinking in English for familiar topics while still translating for new or complex ideas. You might think in English about your daily routine, ordering food, or discussing your hobbies, but switch back to translation when discussing abstract concepts or unfamiliar subjects. At this level, your fluency is inconsistent. You can speak naturally about comfortable topics, but struggle with new situations. Your confidence fluctuates depending on the subject matter. This is actually a positive sign because it shows you're developing the ability to think in English, even if only partially. Level 3. The natural English thinker. At the advanced level, you think in English automatically most of the time. You may occasionally translate complex technical terms or cultural concepts, but the vast majority of your thoughts flow directly in English. Your speaking is natural, confident, and fluent. At this level, you can engage in complex discussions, express subtle emotions, use humor, and even dream in English. You understand idioms and cultural references naturally. Most importantly, speaking English feels effortless because you're simply expressing your thoughts rather than constructing and translating sentences. The foundation. Building your English mental environment. Immerse your mind, not just your ears. True immersion isn't just about listening to English for hours each day. It's about creating an environment where your mind naturally defaults to English. This means restructuring your mental landscape so that English becomes your mind's natural language for certain contexts. Start by designating specific times or activities as English thinking time. Perhaps your morning routine becomes an English-only mental space. As you brush your teeth, get dressed, and eat breakfast, narrate everything in your mind using English. Don't translate, just think in simple English sentences about what you're doing. When you're alone, speak out loud in English. Narrate your actions like you're the host of your own reality show. This might feel strange initially, but it's incredibly powerful. When you vocalize your English thoughts, you're reinforcing the neural pathways that connect thinking and speaking in English. Change your phone and digital life to English. One of the simplest yet most effective strategies is changing all your devices to English. Your phone, computer, social media accounts, and apps should all operate in English. This forces you to process English constantly throughout your day for practical, real-world tasks. Initially, you might need to figure out what some buttons or options mean, but within a week, everything becomes familiar. The beauty of this approach is that you're using English in context. You're not studying English, you're living in English. Your brain begins to associate everyday actions with English words and phrases naturally. Consume content that engages your emotions. The content you consume plays a crucial role in developing English thinking. Passive listening, where you understand but don't engage emotionally, won't transform your thinking patterns. Instead, find content that genuinely interests you, makes you laugh, inspires you, or moves you emotionally. When you're emotionally engaged, your brain processes language more deeply. You're not just hearing words, you're experiencing ideas, stories, and emotions through English. This creates powerful mental associations that embed English thinking into your consciousness. Watch TV series that hook you so completely that you forget you're even watching in English. Listen to podcasts about topics you're passionate about. Read books or articles that fascinate you. The goal isn't to study this content, but to experience it so fully that English becomes the natural language of these experiences in your memory. The core practice: daily exercises to think in English. Morning mental narration. Begin each day with a 15-minute session of mental narration. As soon as you wake up, start describing everything in English inside your mind. I'm waking up. I feel a bit tired. The sun is coming through my window. I need to get out of bed. It's cold outside the blanket. Keep your thoughts simple and present-focused. Don't worry about making mistakes in your mind. Nobody can hear your thoughts. The goal is to make English thinking automatic. Over time, increase the complexity of your thoughts and the duration of your practice. This morning practice is particularly powerful because your mind is fresh and forming new habits is easier. You're also establishing English as the language you think in when you're in a relaxed, personal state, which helps make English thinking feel natural and comfortable. Describing your environment. Throughout your day, practice describing what you see around you in English. Sitting in a cafe, mentally describe the people, the atmosphere, the sounds and smells. On the bus, describe the passing scenery, the other passengers, your thoughts and feelings. Make this practice increasingly detailed and sophisticated. Start with simple observations. There's a red car. A woman is walking her dog. Progress to more complex descriptions. The elegant woman in the navy blue coat is struggling to control her energetic golden retriever, who seems fascinated by every smell on the sidewalk. This exercise develops your ability to process visual and sensory information directly in English. You're teaching your brain that English is the natural language for understanding and describing the world around you. Internal dialogue and problem solving. Perhaps the most powerful practice is conducting your internal dialogue in English. When you're thinking about a problem, planning your day, or reflecting on a conversation, do it entirely in English. For example, if you're deciding what to eat for lunch, think through the decision in English. I'm pretty hungry. I had a light breakfast, so I should eat something substantial. Maybe pasta. No, I had pasta yesterday. What about that new sandwich shop? That could be good. I'll try that. When you face challenges or make decisions in English, you're using the language in its most authentic context, your own mind. This is exactly how native speakers use language, not as an external tool, but as the medium of thought itself. Talking to yourself out loud. Speaking to yourself might feel awkward, but it's one of the most effective techniques for developing natural English thinking. When you're alone, have conversations with yourself in English. Discuss your day, debate decisions, practice explaining things, or even argue with yourself about different viewpoints. The physical act of speaking reinforces your mental practice. It connects thinking in English with producing English sounds, making the transition from thought to speech seamless. You're also getting valuable speaking practice without the pressure of a conversation partner. Try different activities while speaking English to yourself. Cook a meal while describing each step out loud. Organize your closet while commenting on what you're doing. Take a walk and narrate what you see and think. The more context in which you practice speaking English to yourself, the more natural it becomes. Dream journaling in English. Keep a journal where you record your dreams in English immediately upon waking. Dreams are fascinating because they reveal what languages your subconscious mind operates in. Initially, you might dream in your native language, but as you progress, English will begin appearing in your dreams. Recording dreams in English forces you to process abstract, emotional, and often illogical content in English. This develops your ability to use English for creative, non-linear thinking rather than just practical communication. Even if you can't remember your dreams, use your dream journal to write about your thoughts, feelings, and experiences from the previous day. Write stream of consciousness style without worrying about perfect grammar. The goal is to make English the natural language for processing your inner world. Advanced techniques, accelerating your progress. Think in English before speaking. Before any English conversation, whether it's a presentation, an interview, or a casual chat, spend 5 to 10 minutes thinking purely in English. Don't prepare specific sentences to say. Instead, immerse your mind in English by thinking about random topics in English until your brain is fully operating in English mode. This pre-conversation English immersion ensures you'll speak more naturally and fluently. You're warming up your English brain so that when the conversation begins, you're already thinking in English rather than translating. Many learners make the mistake of preparing specific phrases or sentences before important conversations. This actually reinforces translation thinking. Instead, prepare your mind by getting it into English thinking mode, then let the conversation flow naturally. Expand your thinking vocabulary. To think in English about complex topics, you need vocabulary that represents those concepts. Create thinking vocabulary lists organized by topics you frequently think about: emotions, decision making, personal values, future planning, relationships, work challenges. Learn phrases that express thoughts, not just objects and actions. Instead of just learning happy, learn I feel happy because. It makes me happy when. I'd be happier if. Instead of just problem, learn I'm dealing with the problem. The problem is that. I need to solve this problem by. This thinking vocabulary allows you to process complex ideas directly in English. When you have the language to express nuanced thoughts, your mind naturally begins using that language for thinking. Progressive complexity. Start with simple present tense thinking about immediate experiences, then gradually increase complexity. After mastering present tense narration of current activities, begin thinking about past events in English. Reflect on your day, recall conversations, or remember experiences entirely in English. Next, develop future thinking in English. Plan your tomorrow. Imagine future scenarios, or daydream about goals and aspirations in English. The ability to mentally time travel using English shows advanced thinking fluency. Finally, tackle abstract thinking in English. Philosophize, analyze problems, critique ideas, or explore concepts entirely in English. When you can think about abstract concepts directly in English without translation, you've achieved true fluency. Create English thinking triggers. Establish specific triggers that automatically switch your brain into English thinking mode. This could be entering a specific room in your house, putting on headphones, or starting a particular activity. For example, make your kitchen an English thinking zone. Every time you enter that kitchen, switch your mental narration to English. Over time, your brain will automatically start thinking in English when you enter that space. These triggers create context-dependent English thinking, which eventually expands into automatic English thinking across all contexts. You're training your brain to recognize certain situations as English situations, which strengthens your English neural networks. Practice English thinking during physical exercise. Combine physical exercise with English thinking practice. While jogging, cycling, or working out, conduct your thoughts entirely in English. The combination of physical and mental activity create powerful learning conditions. Physical exercise increases blood flow to the brain, which can enhance learning and memory formation. Additionally, thinking in English while exercising associates English with positive feelings of health and vitality, making the language feel more natural and integrated into your life. During exercise, think about your workout in English. My legs are getting tired. I need to keep pushing. Just 5 more minutes. I can do this. Or let your mind wander on any topic, ensuring all thoughts flow in English. Overcoming common challenges. I don't know the word in English. When thinking in English, you'll inevitably encounter situations where you don't know a specific word. This is actually an opportunity, not a problem. Instead of switching to your native language to find the word, Practice working around the gap using English. Describe the concept using words you do know. If you can't remember screwdriver, think the tool you use to turn screws or that metal thing for tightening screws. This develops your circumlocution skills, which are essential for fluent communication. Over time, you'll learn the missing words, but the skill of expressing yourself despite vocabulary gaps is invaluable. Native speakers do this constantly when they can't remember a specific word. They describe around it in English rather than abandoning English communication. My thoughts are too fast. Many learners feel their thoughts move too quickly to express in English. This is normal. Your native language's thoughts have years of practice and operate in high speed. Your English thinking is still developing and naturally slower. Accept that thinking in English will initially be slower than thinking in your native language. This isn't a problem to solve, but a natural stage to progress through. As you practice, your English thinking speed will increase dramatically. Start with slower-paced thinking sessions. During quiet moments when you're not rushed, practice thinking in English about simple topics. As this becomes easier, gradually attempt English thinking in more complex or fast-paced situations. I make mistakes when thinking in English. Making mistakes in your thoughts doesn't matter. Nobody can hear your internal dialogue. The goal isn't perfect grammar in your thoughts, but natural, automatic English thinking. In fact, making mistakes while thinking in English is beneficial. You're experimenting, trying new structures, and stretching your language abilities. Over time, through exposure to correct English and natural usage, your thinking will become more accurate. Don't edit your thoughts or stop yourself to correct mental grammar. Let your English thoughts flow freely, even imperfectly. Fluency develops from quantity of practice, not perfect practice. I keep slipping back to my native language. Reverting to your native language is the most common challenge. Your brain naturally defaults to the language it's most comfortable with. Changing this requires consistent, patient effort. Every time you notice yourself thinking in your native language, gently shift back to English. Don't be frustrated with yourself. Each shift is practice. Over weeks and months, the English thinking periods will lengthen while the native language periods shorten. Use physical reminders to stay in English thinking mode. A bracelet, a note on your phone screen, or a specific ringtone can all serve as reminders to check whether you're thinking in English and switch back if needed. Integrating English thinking into real conversations. The pre-conversation ritual. Before any English conversation, perform a quick mental immersion. Spend 60 seconds thinking about anything in English. This activates your English brain so you enter the conversation already thinking in English rather than translating. During this preparation, don't rehearse specific things to say. Just get your mind operating in English. Think about the weather, your breakfast, or what you did yesterday. The content doesn't matter. You're warming up the English pathways in your brain. This simple ritual dramatically improves conversational fluency. You'll speak more naturally, respond more quickly, and feel more confident because you're operating in English thinking mode from the conversation start. Staying in English during conversations. During conversations, focus on maintaining English thinking rather than constructing perfect sentences. When someone speaks to you, process their words directly in English without translating to your native language. If you don't understand something, resist the urge to translate word by word. Instead, use context, gestures, and approximation to grasp the general meaning or simply ask for clarification in English. This keeps you in English mode throughout the interaction. When it's your turn to speak, express thoughts that are already in English rather than translating thoughts from your native language. Initially, this might mean speaking more simply, but you'll sound more natural and improve faster. Post-conversation reflection. After English conversations, replay them in your mind in English. Think about what was said, how you responded, and what you could have expressed differently. This reflection in English reinforces the conversation's language and builds your thinking fluency. Avoid post-conversation analysis in your native language. If you think, I should have said X, make sure that thought happens in English. I should have said. This ensures even your reflection and learning process occurs in English. Creating an English personality. Language and identity. Many advanced learners report developing a slightly different personality when speaking their second language. This isn't unusual or problematic. It's actually a sign of deep language integration. When you think in English, you're not just using different words, but accessing different cultural frameworks and communication styles. Embrace this English-speaking version of yourself. You might find you're more direct in English, or more polite, or more humorous. These variations occur because different languages encode different cultural values and communication patterns. Developing an English personality helps make English thinking natural. You're not translating your native language self into English, you're allowing an English thinking self to emerge. This feels more authentic and makes English communication more effortless. Internal voice in English. Notice the voice of your thoughts. When you think in your native language, your internal voice has a certain quality. As you develop English thinking, you'll notice your internal English voice developing its own character. Some learners find it helpful to model their internal English voice after a favorite English speaker, a teacher, a podcast host, an actor, or someone they admire. This gives their English thinking a natural rhythm and intonation. Your internal English voice will eventually become uniquely yours, blending your personality with English language patterns. This voice is powerful because it makes English thinking feel authentically you rather than foreign or forced. Emotional expression in English. True fluency includes expressing emotions naturally in English. Practice feeling and expressing emotions in English, not by translating emotion words, but by connecting emotional experiences directly with English expressions. When you're happy, think, I'm so happy in English, and feel the emotion with those words. When frustrated, let the frustration express itself in English phrases. When excited about something, let your internal excited chatter happen in English. This emotional connection makes English thinking deep and authentic. You're not just using English for practical communication, but for your emotional life. This integration is essential for natural fluency. Measuring your progress. Signs you're thinking in English. How do you know if you're successfully developing English thinking? Several signs indicate progress. First, you'll notice decreased mental fatigue during English conversations. When you're not translating, speaking English requires less cognitive effort. Second, your response time in conversations will decrease. You'll answer questions more quickly because you're not translating the question and then translating your response. The whole interaction occurs in English, speeding everything up. Third, you'll start catching yourself thinking in English spontaneously. Perhaps you'll notice your internal commentary on a movie is in English, or you'll realize you've been planning your day mentally in English without consciously deciding to do so. Fourth, your dreams may begin incorporating English. This is a powerful indicator that English has penetrated your subconscious mind. You might hear English conversations in dreams or even dream entirely in English. Finally, you'll find yourself occasionally searching for words in your native language because the English word comes to mind first. This reversal shows that for certain concepts or contexts, English has become your primary mental language. Tracking your mental language ratio. Pay attention to what percentage of your waking thoughts occur in English versus your native language. Initially, this might be 5% English, 95% native language. With consistent practice, you'll see this ratio shift. Don't expect or need 100% English thinking. Even people living in English-speaking countries for decades think in their native language sometimes. A healthy goal is to reach 50% or more English thinking during your waking hours. Track your progress weekly. Perhaps every Sunday evening, reflect on how much English thinking you did that week compared to the previous week. Celebrate improvements and identify patterns about when and where English thinking comes easiest for you. Fluency milestones. Set specific milestones for your English thinking journey. These might include thinking through an entire morning routine in English, having a complete internal debate about a decision in English, dreaming in English for the first time, or going an entire day thinking primarily in English. These milestones provide motivation and help you recognize progress. Language learning sometimes feels like slow, invisible progress, but these concrete markers show you're genuinely advancing toward fluency. The long-term practice, making English thinking permanent. Consistency over intensity. The key to permanent English thinking isn't intensive short-term practice, but consistent long-term habit. 15 minutes of English thinking practice daily for 6 months will transform your fluency more than 6 hours 1 day per week. Make English thinking part of your daily routine like brushing your teeth. It shouldn't be something you do when motivated, but something you do automatically every day. This consistency builds the neural pathways that make English thinking effortless. Start with manageable goals, perhaps 5 minutes of morning narration and 5 minutes of evening reflection. As this becomes a habit, naturally expand your practice without forcing it. Expanding your English life. As English thinking becomes easier, expand your English life beyond language practice. Use English for practical purposes. Write your shopping list in English. Plan your schedule in English. Journal about your day in English or set goals and track habits in English. Join English-speaking communities around your interests. If you love photography, join English photography forums. If you enjoy cooking, watch English cooking channels and read English recipes. When English becomes the language of things you genuinely care about, English thinking becomes automatic. The ultimate goal is reaching a point where English isn't something you study, but something you use naturally for parts of your life. This authentic usage solidifies English thinking permanently. Maintaining English thinking long-term. Once you've developed strong English thinking skills, maintaining them requires ongoing English engagement. If you stop using English for extended periods, your brain will default back to your native language for efficiency. However, once established, English thinking is easy to maintain. Regular consumption of English content, occasional English conversations, and periodic English thinking sessions will keep your skills sharp. Think of English thinking like physical fitness. You don't reach a point where you're permanently fit without maintenance, but maintaining fitness is much easier than building it initially. Similarly, maintaining English thinking requires far less effort than developing it. Conclusion: your journey to natural fluency. Learning to think in English isn't just another language learning technique. It's the fundamental shift that separates true fluency from perpetual struggle. When you think in English, speaking becomes the natural expression of your thoughts rather than a mental translation marathon. This journey requires patience, consistency, and courage to step out of your native language comfort zone. The initial stages feel awkward and slow. Your brain will resist, preferring the efficiency of your native language. But with daily practice, English thinking becomes increasingly natural until one day you realize you're thinking in English without effort or conscious decision. The transformation isn't just linguistic, it's personal. As you develop English thinking, you're expanding your mental world, accessing new perspectives, and creating new possibilities for connection, learning, and growth. You're not just learning a language, you're fundamentally changing how your mind works. Start today, not tomorrow, not after you finish a grammar course, not after you learn more vocabulary. Start right now with 60 seconds of simple English thinking about your immediate surroundings. Describe what you see, what you're doing, how you feel, just 60 seconds. Then tomorrow, do it again, and the next day, and the next. Each day, your English thinking will become slightly easier, slightly more natural, slightly more automatic. These small daily improvements compound into dramatic transformation. The path to fluency isn't mysterious or complicated. It's simply this: think in English, speak naturally. Everything else, grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, will improve as a natural consequence of making English the language of your thoughts. Your fluent English speaking future self is waiting. That version of you thinks in English effortlessly, speaks confidently and naturally, and uses English as freely as your native language. The bridge between your current self and that fluent future self is built one English thought at a time. Begin building that bridge today. Think in English and watch your fluency transform.